You know that moment when you wake up, check your phone, and before you even leave the bed, you already owe money to five different companies? Rent is due in 3 days. Your student loan reminder is glowing in your inbox. Your credit card app is politely screaming, and Spotify just renewed itself without asking for your opinion. Welcome to adulthood, also known as paying a monthly subscription to your own existence. When we were kids, nobody explained it like that. As a child, your world was tiny. Your universe was your house, your classroom, your street, maybe your grandparents' place on the weekend. You didn't wake up and mentally compare your life to millions of people across the planet. You compared yourself to like three other kids. One of them ran faster, one of them drew better dinosaurs, one of them had the cool pencil case. That was it. You weren't thinking, wow, at age 8, I'm really behind on my portfolio and my personal brand. You were just there, existing, eating snacks, watching cartoons, getting yelled at for not cleaning your room. Life was mostly about what was right in front of you. Then, at some point, somebody sat you down and handed you the script. Not an actual piece of paper, but a story that sounded something like this. If you study hard, get good grades, go to a decent college, pick a respectable major, graduate, and get a stable job, then adulthood will more or less make sense. You'll earn enough to live, you'll buy a house someday, you'll maybe start a family, you'll go on vacations, save for retirement, and everything will gradually fall into place. That was the promise. That was the pitch. Fast forward. You did a lot of that, or at least you tried. You stayed up late doing homework. You stressed over exams. Maybe you went to college and collected not just knowledge, but also a nice bouquet of loans. You got a job, or two jobs, or three side gigs. You did what you were told would lead to a good life. And yet here you are, staring at your banking app like it's a horror game. The numbers don't add up, the math doesn't math, because nobody told you that just existing as an adult comes with a built-in price tag before you do anything fun, interesting, or meaningful. Start with the basics. You need a place to sleep that isn't a sidewalk or your parents' couch. That's rent. Maybe a mortgage if you somehow passed the Hunger Games of housing. You need food, ideally something more advanced than instant noodles and air. That's groceries, which lately feels like shopping at a luxury boutique that happens to sell eggs. You need electricity, water, internet. The holy trinity of please don't cut this off. You need some form of transportation to get to work so you can afford all of the above. That's the baseline. That's before you factor in healthcare, which in some countries is basically a game of how sick can you afford to be. That's before your tooth hurts, before your car breaks down, before your pet needs emergency vet care, before your boss decides the company is restructuring and your job is suddenly a maybe. The script said, get a job and you'll be okay. Reality says, get a job and you'll unlock the privilege of paying bills forever. And then there's debt, the quiet background character that absolutely runs the show. Maybe it's student loans, the cheerful little souvenir from your attempt to improve your life. Maybe it's credit card debt from the months where your income and your cost of living decided to stop speaking to each other. Debt doesn't scream, it just whispers. It sits there, growing interest while you're trying to sleep. It shows up as a number, but your brain translates it into shame. If I were smarter, more disciplined, better with money, I wouldn't be in this situation. The story you were told blames individuals, not systems. All of this would already be enough to make adulthood feel like a bad deal. But the real upgrade, the premium scam, is what happens in your head. Remember that tiny childhood world with almost no comparison? Now your world is global and it lives in your pocket. You don't just exist anymore, you perform. You log into the endless talent show of social media, where everyone's life looks better than yours in 15-second clips. You open Instagram and see people your age traveling to places you can't afford with bodies you don't have, in apartments that look like they're sponsored by minimalist Scandinavian gods. You open LinkedIn, and someone from your high school just became senior director of global something impressive while you're trying to figure out how to not cry at work. You open TikTok and a 22-year-old is explaining how they made seven figures just by being consistent. When you were 8, you didn't know what anyone in another city was doing. Now you can watch people on the other side of the planet unbox things you can't buy and live a life you can't maintain, all in high definition. So not only is adulthood expensive in money, it's expensive in self-worth. You are constantly paying in little cuts to your self-esteem. Somewhere along the way, the promise changed. It used to be, do the right things and you'll live a decent life. Now it feels more like, do everything perfectly in an increasingly chaotic system. And if you're still struggling, it's your fault for not manifesting hard enough. We talk about financial literacy. Like the main problem is that you don't understand spreadsheets. But the issue isn't that you're too dumb to budget. The issue is that you're trying to budget in a reality where housing, education, and healthcare have sprinted ahead of wages for years, while every app on your phone is designed to make you impulse buy something at 2 a.m. Speaking of apps, let's talk about subscriptions. Once upon a time, you bought a thing and it was yours. Now you rent everything, including your music, your software, your entertainment, your cloud storage, your news, sometimes even your dating experience. One by one, they don't look like much. $10 here, $12 there. That one you forgot to cancel 3 months ago that keeps renewing out of spite. But together, they form a quiet little parade of auto payments draining your account while you're busy pretending to be productive on a Zoom call. You don't own most of the things that structure your daily life. You rent access. If you stop paying, parts of your life just vanish. That's what the cost of existing really means. Not buying a mansion and a yacht, just paying the entry fee for a pretty normal life. A roof, food, connectivity, a bit of entertainment, so you don't scream into a pillow every night, some therapy, if you're lucky. And in the middle of all that, you're still expected to do what? Thrive, be passionate, hustle. Wake up at 5 a.m., drink green juice, work out, crush your goals, build a side business, meditate, journal, and glow. No wonder adulthood feels like a scam. You were promised a linear path where effort leads to stability. You got a glitchy video game where the difficulty keeps scaling up, the rules keep changing, and other players seem to have access to cheat codes you never received. Here's the important part, though. The scam is not that being an adult is hard. That's obvious. The scam is how the story was sold to you. It's the gap between the brochure and the reality. It's being told that everything is about your individual choices while quietly leaving out how much of the game was rigged before you were even born. And once you start to see that, something strange happens. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" quite as loudly. You start asking, "Wait, why is the price of a normal life this high? Why did we decide this is reasonable? Who actually benefits from me feeling like a failure all the time?" You still have to pay rent. The bills don't disappear because you watched one YouTube video and had an epiphany. But the shame can start to crack. The loneliness can start to soften when you realize that millions of people your age are staring at their own banking apps with the same exhausted laugh. And that's where a channel like this comes in. Not to teach you how to become a billionaire, not to tell you that if you just wake up earlier and grind harder, you'll magically escape the system. Honestly, if it were that simple, you wouldn't be here. This space is for something else. It's for saying out loud what most people bury under toxic positivity and hustle quotes. It's for admitting that the cost of existing right now is absurd and that you're not crazy for feeling overwhelmed by it. It's for zooming out, laughing at the chaos, and maybe understanding it just enough that it doesn't swallow you whole. Because no, you are not failing at adulthood. You are not uniquely broken because you're tired, behind on savings, confused about your career, or still paying off a piece of paper that says you graduated. You are a human being trying to stay afloat in a time where everything is faster, louder, more expensive, more visible, and more demanding than it has ever been. So if you've ever looked at your paycheck, looked at your bills, looked at your phone full of other people's perfect lives, and thought, Is this some kind of joke? You're exactly who this channel is for. Welcome to Simply Chaos. We're not here to pretend the system isn't messed up. We're here to point at it, name it, laugh at it, and maybe, slowly, learn how to live inside it without losing our minds. You don't have it all figured out. Neither do I. Neither does anyone, no matter how good their LinkedIn looks. And that's the real secret of adulthood they forgot to tell you.